Okay, so the project is reaching its next milestone. I'm writing the last of the web pages to distribute it. I have no money to advertise it with. I think I can be done with all this sometime next week or early the week after, and then got to start job hunting. And I think I brought up my stepmom's website. She got sick of me doing laundry over at my dad's, so she bought me a washer dryer. And I applied for my first job a week ago today, last Wednesday. And I find out the next morning. I go over to my dad's and he says, well, she wants a website in exchange for the washer dryer. I'll throw in $300. Will you do it? And of course I say yes, because he's done so much for me. And now I know I brought this up. And so that is, I'm probably willing to put in as much as 3 weeks of full-time work into that. And if I get a half-time job, that's 6 weeks that I'll spend away from my project. So I wanted to at least get it in a state where I could distribute it and keep track of the people who used it, grant them administrations for the tests they published and things like that. And that's really about all there is to say. My drunken neighbor is acting up tonight. He doesn't like me. I think that he liked me at first when he thought I was just some degenerate schizophrenic who had nothing going for him, but as it became clear that I was a computer programmer and other things, he really began to dislike me. And I hope that doesn't sound too arrogant, but I think it really bothers him. I think there are other people too around here who probably liked me better when they thought I was just some, maybe I'm being too cynical. I don't think so. It's like a documentary I saw on racism. This guy tells a story of his father who, their neighbor, they lived on a farm, and the man who owned the neighboring farm was black, and this man had a mule, and his father did not have a mule. And so one night his father killed his neighbor's mule, and he told his son, if you don't have more than a nigger, what have you really got? And I think it's that sort of mentality. Incidentally, that's about the only time I'll use that word is quoting somebody else. I hate that word. I don't even like it when black people call each other that. I mean, I understand that they're entitled, but it still makes me uncomfortable. I'm a bit of a bigot, I'll be honest, but I'm very open about it is the problem, and I think it's more socially acceptable to hide your prejudice as opposed to saying, all right, look, yeah, I know I'm a bit of a bigot, here it is, yeah, at least this is all there is to it. It isn't typically done that way, and perhaps I'll learn better. Anyway. The joke I made very briefly was that it's not that I'm a bigot, it's just that I have a little bit of a problem with everybody. And then I go on a bit about the mongrel races of Europe and how if you aren't Dutch, you aren't much. And it seemed so preposterous to me that I thought it was funny. And it only took a couple of weeks before I understood that it wasn't funny at all, because there were far too many people who felt that way about one race or another, that there was a superior race and everybody else was just mud people. But that's the way of the world. It's interesting. Europe was riddled with wars for millennia until it was divided into countries along ethnic lines after World War I. And the few wars we've seen in Europe since then have been because of ethnic divisions, the Slavs and the Croats or whomever. And it is just part of human nature, I think, that we like to live with our own kind. And it's one of the things that makes the U.S. so incredibly unique is the diversity. And you don't see that elsewhere to the extent you see it here. Along the same lines of thought, after World War I, the British drew up the national lines in Africa and the Middle East. And what they did when they drew these nation lines, unlike in Europe, where countries were comprised of a single ethnicity, they took ethnicity and both racial and religious ethnicities, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. In the Middle East, the Sunnis, the Kurds, and the Sunnis, the Kurds, and the Shia. And they pack them together in the same country as opposed to segregating them into separate countries. And as a result, Africa has been fucked ever since. And nothing but civil war, bloodshed, poverty, famine. And they have Great Britain to thank for it, more so than anything else. The only reason the Middle East is any different is because of their oil wealth, and it's not much different. There are tyrannical monarchs, and if you want a model for what the Middle East could have been like, look to nations like Kuwait and Qatar, where there is only one ethnic minority because they're so small. And I grant you, in retrospect, you can say that it would have been better otherwise. And you have to look, though, at the possibility of a politically stable, oil-rich region that didn't get along with us on ideological terms, and how that could have posed a threat. But politically stable, economically prosperous countries tend not to start wars. Tend not to. Germany was rising out of a horrible depression. The cases, I heard a German Jew, survivor of the Holocaust, or at least of one of the ghettos, say that he remembered being a child and listening to Hitler give a speech on the radio. And at one point he asked the crowd, "What do you want, guns or butter?" And the crowd started chanting, "Guns, guns, guns." He said, "For the first time in my life, I saw my father afraid." And, well, a loose association tonight, apparently. A loose association night tonight. I'll go ahead and shut up.